What does it mean to have a good death? It's a question we probably don't want to think about, but it's one of the most profound and personal we could ever face. Today, we're diving into the incredibly complex world of medical aid in dying, a topic that sits right at the crossroads of medicine, ethics, and our deepest beliefs about life and dignity.
And really, this is the question that's at the heart of it all. It's something people have debated for literally centuries, and it is the absolute core of the issue we're unpacking. Do we have a right to choose not only how we live, but also how we die?
All right, let's get into it. We're going to start by framing the debate. Then we'll see what the medical world thinks. After that, we'll unpack the core philosophical fight, this idea of liberty versus sanctity. We'll get crystal clear on the different actions and terms. And finally, we'll land on this deep moral tension that really defines the whole issue today.
So let's set the stage. This is not some quiet academic debate happening in the background. No way. Sources are calling this one of the most intense moral battles of our time, and it pulls in everyone. Lawmakers, doctors, philosophers, you name it.
Okay, first things first, let's get our terms straight. Euthanasia is the deliberate act of ending a life to relieve suffering. And while this feels like a super modern issue, this debate has a really long history. The first big push to legalize it here in the US was way back in 1906, over a century ago. So what should the people on the front lines think? The doctors, the medical organizations. What's the official view from the people who are the gatekeepers of these practices? Well, for decades, the official global stance has been pretty unambiguous. Major bodies like the World Medical Association have consistently come out and said point blank that deliberately ending a patient's life is fundamentally unethical. Full stop. But, and this is a big but, here's where it gets really complicated. That official top-down position doesn't always reflect what individual doctors actually think. When you get on the ground and start asking physicians, that solid consensus just completely fractures. And this survey just lays it all out there. While a majority, almost 57%, they stick to the official line, a huge minority, a combined 43%, believe it's ethically acceptable, at least in some cases. That is a massive split in a profession that's supposed to be united on core ethics.
So what in the world is fueling this division? Well, it really comes down to a fundamental clash. It's a showdown between two incredibly powerful competing ideas that have shaped Western thought for centuries. So, in one corner, you have the liberty principle, famously championed by the philosopher John Stuart Mill. The core idea is actually pretty simple. You should be free to make your own choices as long as you're not hurting anybody else. It's all about maximizing individual autonomy. And in the other corner, you have the sanctity of life doctrine. This principle argues that life itself is sacred. It's an intrinsic good, maybe even a gift. And from this perspective, our primary duty is to preserve life, because fundamentally, it's not ours to take. So how do these huge philosophical ideas actually play out in a hospital room? Well, it all comes down to making some really crucial distinctions about the specific actions involved. The most common distinction you'll hear is between active and passive euthanasia. Active means taking a direct step to cause death, like giving a lethal injection. Passive, on the other hand, which is actually widely practiced, means stepping back, withdrawing treatment, and letting the underlying disease run its natural course. This connects to a classic philosophical puzzle. What's the real moral difference between killing and letting die? Imagine two guys. One actively drowns his cousin. The other just happens to find his cousin drowning and simply does nothing. In both cases, the cousin dies. But are the two actions morally the same? Ethicists have been fiercely debating that for a long time. Now, in the modern legal world, this has led to some very specific terms. In physician-assisted suicide, or PAS, the doctor provides the means, the prescription, but the patient is the one who takes the final step. The term many people prefer now is medical aid in dying, or MAID. And this part is key. The American Medical Association insists that MAID is not euthanasia, because the doctor isn't the one performing that final act. And this brings us right up to the present day and to the American Medical Association, the AMA. So how has the biggest medical group in the US tried to solve this incredible puzzle? Well, their recent review is absolutely fascinating. So get this, between 2016 and 2019, the AMA launched this massive 3-year review of its stance on medical aid in dying.
Everybody was watching. Were they finally going to change their long-held opposition? And the answer they came back with wasn't a simple yes or no. It was much more interesting than that. Okay, so here's the bombshell. The AMA decided to keep its official opposition to MAID, but it also said something totally new, that individual doctors could follow their own conscience. For the very first time, they said a physician could participate in MAID and not be considered unethical by their main professional organization.
Essentially, the AMA looked at those two competing duties, the duty to preserve life and the duty to relieve suffering, and they refused to pick a winner. They basically admitted that both are valid. They called it an irreducible moral tension, which is just a powerful way of saying there's a fundamental conflict here with no easy answer.
And that leaves us with a final, really powerful question. When you're faced with two deeply held values that are in direct conflict, and there's no clear right answer, how do you move forward? And that's not just a question for doctors or for lawmakers. It's a question every single one of us might have to answer for ourselves one day.